Yo, and welcome to the EPM show. This is all things enterprise performance management, and we're doing our best to give you an unfair career advantage. I'm your host, Blake Bozarth, joined by Chad Pyke again today. I've been looking forward to this episode. I look forward to almost every episode. This one especially so because this is a good, very close friend, a hero for me in so many ways. Steve Piotraczk is on the show today. Steve, welcome to the EPM show.
Hey, thank you, Blake. It's good to be on, and Chad, it's been great to meet you, and looking forward to it.
So, hey, before we get into the meat of it, we like to ask every guest our patented question, Steve, and that is, tell us a little bit about you and your career in 60 seconds. We have a little timer here, and we'll turn you loose. Go for it.
Okay, great. Hey, I hail from Michigan. That's why I'm wearing the Ferris State logo over here. And my career, I was fortunate enough to start at General Motors. And man, they taught me a ton working directly in manufacturing, materials management. But then I parlayed into sales because everyone said, dude, what are you doing in manufacturing? You belong in sales. And so I listened and I went and interviewed and had the good fortune to work for a company, Reynolds and Reynolds, out of Dayton, Ohio, learned solution sales and every aspect of it. And it carved the way for me to actually end up going with a bunch of startup software niche companies, Free Markets, Ariba, which all got acquired, and all roads lead to SAP or Oracle. So then I did the SAP thing, and I'm a software guy at heart, line of business. So what it takes to run procurement, manufacturing, supply chain, that's been my bailiwick for years, and I get it because I come from the industry. So that's been it. And then I've, been working in kind of doing the private equity thing lately and just helping companies get to their growth aspirations. And so I've been on that trail for the past tail end of my career here. So I've been enjoying that.
Nailed it. Now we got to incorporate a little bit more of the personal side. So knowing you a little bit, I got to ask you, natural athlete, quarterback in college, tell me about, I've never seen it, but tell me a little bit about barefooting. When's the last time you barefooted behind a boat, Steve?
So you're trapping me because what I do every year is on my birthday, I always want to barefoot, and I do, frontwards, backwards. I do everything I know how to do. And this last year I didn't do it. And I don't really have an excuse. I really don't. I know I can go out there this afternoon and do that, right? But it's one of those things. I used to love to get on the water and started just regular skiing first and competition skiing, with slalom and trick and jumping, but then barefooting just caught my attention. It's fun. It's got that screw loose mentality, Chad. So,
Oh, yeah.
And then you keep pushing the envelope to try more, but I can still do it. I know I can, but I just haven't this year. Like it's been over a year.
You're gonna make it happen because I haven't seen it yet, so I gotta be involved. Don't do it without me, please. Chad, you're up.
Tons of videos and there's proof. I've got pictures.
Right.
Okay, well, I need you to send that to me because I can't imagine. So two questions. First, when was the first time you did barefoot, and how did that go?
You're gonna laugh because we were basically, I'm thinking my 8th grade year, maybe because we were just a bunch of little dudes, right? And we had this boat. It had a 50 horsepower Johnson on it, and we would pull tubes, like black inner tubes, right? My dad put the harness on. And one day we're sitting there, and I'm on the back of it, and we're cruising along, sitting on the back with my feet on the front, and I'm like, I think I can stand up in the center of this thing. And I did. And I stood up and I pulled that tube right around my waist, and I was barefooting. And it was easy as could be. And we taught all sorts of people to do that right through the center of a tube. So you'd stand up, pull the tube right up. And then the only issue was when you would fall, because then you would tangle.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And it was a mess, man. But that's how we learned. And then from there it was ski booms. And, you learn on a ski boom off the side of the boat, and then it just becomes much simpler at that point. Then you watch videos, when videos came out, VHS, right? How to do it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know, because for those who, our audience, we were talking offline about having some screws loose, and Steve was giving me a hard time about wrestling. So I'm glad that we can relate on this topic. That's fantastic.
That's too good. If only you had a YouTube channel back in the day, Steve. Well, maybe
right.
It's not too late. It's not too late. We can crank that up. the meat of the show today. We're going to dive into you're a legend of enterprise sales. Now you've been selling the cloud, I guess, the last however many years, and you have a lot of experience in this industry, working with tons of different clients across different types of industries. We want to talk to you a little bit about what are you seeing in the marketplace these days, Steve, especially when it comes to maybe that mid-market that hasn't always been the focus of some of these platforms, the legacy player platforms in the past that were more geared towards the very large enterprises. What are you seeing now at Argano when you're actually looking at mid-market clients that aren't quite to that same level and threshold? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's an awakening in the sense that all companies need help in terms of gaining efficiencies and in access to effective software. And now that everything is cloud based, and even with SAP moving from perpetual to cloud, it allows an entry point that's manageable. So if a mid-market company's got a focal point, maybe hone in on some supply chain practices, or hone in on whatever it may be, just HR or procurement, they can do that. They can deploy through the cloud and focus on the one aspect of the help that they need, tie that into their existing enterprise solution, or move everything kind of module by module, but it's much more manageable and cost effective. And the ability for companies like SAP and others to actually implement and take care of the need at hand, and then migrate and pull everything over as needed. It doesn't have to be one fell swoop, and everything has to be bought and plugged in simultaneously. So that's a great opportunity for the mid-market. We're seeing it happen across the board of them picking and choosing. So
Steve, can you define mid-market in terms of maybe top line revenue? What kind of range are we talking here? Just because that can be a broad category. And I know with some of the solution providers that we've talked to and worked with, a lot of them, most of their business is, 1 billion in revenue plus. So can you maybe give some context into that, headcount and revenue size that we're talking about here,
so
where you think
ranges,
it's going?
Chad, it does. And it's, we've got a bunch of, great clients, that are, using our solutions, are cloud-based, but, ranges from, I would say, 250,000 a year up to what I would classify right to about, 1 billion, to your point, what you were saying before. Now there's in terms of, you have what you would consider a mid-market company that, may have been hovering around, 800 million, but now they're up to, 3 billion. It's happened, good for them, but we still consider them a mid-market company because, it started at one point and it's kind of ended up in another through growth. Headcount depends. It depends on what your product mix is, right? You can have a $750,000 a year company, and it's something that doesn't take a lot of labor intensive aspects, right? Retail energy is a perfect example. You could have a big company and 20 people could be running the entire company versus, we've got food manufacturers that, tend to be more labor intensive. So it all depends on your product mix up and down the scale.
So we talked about some of this too with our mutual friend, Steve, Paul Melchiori, about just that mid-market and how there's you're just laughing at the name Paul Melchiori. You guys go way back, I know. But when we think about that mid-market, the demand that's come there, some of those companies have been living in spreadsheets, living in Excel for so long, realizing that, hey, as the world has gotten so much more dynamic, we need to be more dynamic in the way that we can forecast, the way that we can plan. And now there's actually solutions that are much more attainable, much more affordable, much more scalable, if you will, in that segment. Talk to us more, though. You mentioned this before we started recording today, around what are some of the challenges you're seeing there. So the demand is there. Some of the solutions are now there in terms of affordability, scalability. But what are some of the challenges that you're still seeing in terms of actually realizing that kind of solution and gain?
Yeah, the biggest challenge that we see is that, okay, a company may have an initiative and they're ready to go, and there's actually technology that's set that can handle that. And they recognize that, right? They've been through the the demonstrations. They understand how it's going to plug in. You walk them through an implementation plan, and they look behind them and they're like, shit, I don't have the resources. I don't have the skill. It's not just a person, right? It needs to be a person that knows how to actually implement and utilize. You're never going to get to the value if you don't have the right people sitting in the seats and utilizing the software the right way and being creative. So that's the number one challenge, is that they don't have the bodies. And you can go across any initiative and there's just a shortage of talent. That's at the LE, large enterprise, and mid-market. So then it kind of moves into another area we're seeing, is that the people, the talented people, the practitioners of the business, the young people, right, that have the certifications, that understand, the application to the business. They know how to operate. They know how to implement. These people are in high demand. They really are. And they've got a way of protecting themselves, not only currently, but in the future, if they stick to that experience and build on it, and then maybe, move from supply chain to manufacturing, whatever it is. So that's what we're seeing. We facilitate a lot of that headcount at Argano. We do that. That's what we do, is we hire that skill set. We hire those practitioners of the business. But man, it is getting competitive. It's not like it is so competitive. So that's what I'm seeing. That's probably the biggest challenge. People are ready to go. They see the initiative, can't get going.
Steve, it's so funny you mentioned this. We've definitely seen this become a theme just across any type of transformation. Sometimes the trap that leaders can fall into is they think the technology will just be the silver bullet that'll do it. But really, every successful transformation starts with people, right? So on the people side, you talk about that young talent being in such high demand because they have the technical skill sets. What are maybe some things that they could be doing to make sure they're taking advantage of that opportunity? And I'm thinking more along the lines of their soft skills, their interpersonal skills. What's going to set someone apart from, I'm good and I'm technical, to I'm great and I'm a change agent and I'm a change leader in this organization? Can you maybe help them jump a level?
Yeah. So there's one word that actually expresses that more than anything I've ever seen, and it's called courage. It really, you have to have the courage, to look in the mirror and do things, say things, learn things that make a difference, that can directionally help, the leadership of your company. And, some of the best ways to do that is you got to hone in on, you're talking about interpersonal skills. It's taking the classes and the things that you think are kind of a waste of time. The Toastmasters, the public speaking, the way to outline points and get points across. There's lots of good training, but the best is, finding a mentor that's going to help pull you along, that you can shoulder up with and watch how they do it. Because look, I've been in sales forever, right? Sales. But the reality is that I'm in positions of selling solutions that are going to help people, but there's also that director that has to sell to his, CIO or CFO that it's worth this investment. So it's like the people that you're working with are always trying to sell to. They're selling your solution. They're selling themselves, their brand, their equity, their experience, right? It's just kind of funny to sit back and look at it. It's like people that are never in sales are still selling. They're pushing ideas. They're trying to make a difference. It's, those are the things that, you work on as a young individual. And then, man, there's so many good mentors and people out there as well. And that brings up a different point. I'm kind of like, we're talking about young people. There's such a value of these industry experts, right? I'm honing in on the old people like me because this is a guy. I'm turning 60 this year, so I'm happy about it. I feel good, but there's so many people I work with that have such industry experience, deep industry experience, that we're losing those people. And that knowledge needs to transfer. It's like, that's another big concern is, some people aren't good at transferring that knowledge. There's just, so it's kind of on both ends of the spectrum. And those people are, starting to slowly see you later, and then we have a hard time finding and getting more of those people to utilize. So anyway.
So a couple of great nuggets there. One is I love, and maybe this is like something we actually call out as a big part of this episode, is the necessity, if you want to be successful in your career, even as a technical expert, the necessity of being able to sell. And doesn't mean that you have to have a Steve Piotraczk sales experience and skill set, but it just means that you actually do change your frame of reference a little bit. And it's like, yeah, I have a lot of great hard skills, and that's a lot of the value I'm bringing to the table. But if I'm somebody who wants to not just have a average career, a normal career, if I'm somebody who wants to really make a big impact in whatever organization I'm a part of,
right,
to do that, you need to embrace the sales side. And it looks like, I love what you said, Steve. It's about understanding that you do have a personal brand, and what is that brand? Do people understand what you bring to the table? And when you're passionate about the organization going a certain way or taking advantage of a certain opportunity, have you worked on the skill set of being able to influence to that direction? Yeah. So that sticks out in a huge way. And the second big thing is there's a chasm going on between some of this newer early career talent coming in and some of the more senior seasoned talent that's going out. And right, it's kind of the onus, I would say the onus, hearing you talk, Steve, it's on both parties. And it is on company leadership to also facilitate that. But if you're somebody who is that seasoned vet, make sure you're reaching out and finding somebody that you can actually transfer that knowledge into, help them not just with their hard skills, but also some of those soft skills. And then vice versa, as a young person, you be seeking that kind of person out. Both of those stand out in huge ways. I want to ask you too, Steve, when you look at what Argano is doing now, how would you describe, I guess, what makes you guys unique in your approach in the marketplace and with clients? And I know you talked about how a common theme for you guys and the clients you're working with is it may start with one initiative, one piece of the enterprise, and then you end up helping kind of transform and connect more and more the rest of enterprise. But what does it look like for you in these days with Argano specifically?
Well, so Argano is it's a big umbrella, right? So we're a very, focused company on implementing solutions and making sure that the value recognition happens, right? So we do this across Oracle, we do this across Microsoft, we do this across Salesforce, and then, our responsibility of our team is within SAP. So a lot of this, what makes us different is that we've got tremendous case study examples. So we know how to do it. We can reference and show people what we've done and how to do it and how to make it work. The one thing that really makes us different too, though, is that, again, let's say people don't have the resources, or they have the resources and now they're adopting new technology. There's so many underlying issues that we help clients with. And one of the big ones is like, hey, I want to advance my technology in a certain area. And then you realize that they don't have the process. Their process is incorrect, right? The way that they do things, the way that the supply chain works, the way the manufacturing works, things have changed in the industry that warrant that you do things differently to take advantage of this new technology, right? So that change management aspect of it, which you can call process improvement, you can call it whatever what you want. We help companies transform and work better in the beginning to change things, so when they do implement the software, it actually is going to get to the value in a timely manner and then sustainable, throughout their journey. So someone said it earlier, I don't think it was Chad, if it was you or if it was Blake, but some people think that they can install technology and magical things are going to happen. You install new technology with the wrong process, a lot of bad things are going to happen. So that's what makes us really unique, is that we uncover all of that, and we're not going to let people, fall into a disastrous situation for the sake of selling bodies and implementing software the wrong way. That's just not good business.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Steve, what's one thing companies should stop doing in their change management process? Like one thing that they think might be right, but it's actually having a negative effect.
They need to listen and actually make the change. A lot of times it's recommended and it's directionally given as to what they should do. And then you fall into this area of nobody has an ugly baby. We've really worked hard at this process and we've implemented this and we've got it going on. We are the best of the best in our industry. What do you mean we should, think about the suggested changes? And even though they make sense, they don't do it. They just don't. They simply won't make the change. That's the one thing that you see that's fairly, frustrating. And then you're sitting back going, that's not going to work. And it doesn't work.
I love that bit about, hey, it's not just that technology is not a silver bullet, but if you bring in new technology without working on people, process, and getting the change management piece right, it can actually make things a lot worse. It's a great ad there, Steve. Before we let you go, I got another one for you, and that is, this is more of a personal question, but I've had a really successful career, storied career, if you will. Is there anything maybe personal to you, whether it's career or anything else, that is something that you're going after these days? Think of it like a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal that you're trying to go after these days.
There's not, I'm not one of those guys that say like, hey, I'm going to go do a marathon or I'm going to do an Ironman, because I've already done all that stuff. So, right? Seven
accomplished all the BHAGs.
If I count the Ironmans, then there's multiple marathons. I'm not thinking. So it's not that. It's my big goal right now is I want to help people. I want to, it just helping people. Like you guys are in the business of putting people, to work, and that's a great thing. I've been doing that a long, long time. Like I really aspire to, help people get up to speed, and then all of a sudden, they're gone out from underneath our organization and out to something else. So I want to do more of that. I really do, but do that still from an aspirational standpoint of, I want to contribute to the company that I'm with. Right. So, big goal might sound a little crazy. I want this to be wildly successful at Argano. And at the same time, help people bridge the gap in their careers, as a sounding board, as a placement of people, because, as you get older and as you work at a bunch of different places like I have, the network expands quite a bit too. So, the ability to plug people in and help each other out, that's always very rewarding. So not a big audacious goal, as you say, but just continuation of that and just contribute, add value. That's the business front. Other than that, I'm going to try to be a good husband, good father, and good grandfather. So.
Amen. And a good Uncle Steve to my kids, just down the way in the neighborhood. Hey,
Lord willing, right? I mean, that's what it all comes down to. You gotta be here in the grace of God and do the good for God. And as long as Lord's willing, I'm happy.
Amen. Amen. Hey, thanks so much, Steve, for making the time coming on the show today. We really appreciate it, and can't wait to continue to see what you drive going forward.
That means we got to be back on again sometime. So
it's going to happen.
You need to get Melchior and I on together. That would be the fun.
Oh, that's a lot of personality for one show, but maybe we can make it happen.
Yeah. All right.
Good
Take
stuff.
Care,
all right. Thanks.
Really
Steve.
Enjoyed it.
Peace. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Wherever you're consuming this, if it's YouTube, if it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed. We have a lot more amazing guests on the way, a lot more great content. We're doing our best to bring you value and have fun while we do it. And we really want this to be a career advantage, listening to this show, and we want you to enjoy it. So it means a lot. Make sure you're subscribed for what's to come. And also, if you're up for it, it would mean a lot if you leave us a like, a comment, a rating, a review, whatever platform you're on. That really helps, and it gets us fired up when we see those. So I appreciate you guys. Find us on LinkedIn. I'm Blake Bozarth, my co-host Chad Pyke with a Y. Would love to connect with you there. Have an awesome day. See you next time. Peace.